The unexpected ambassador. The crystal dome of the Grand Conclave shimmered under the light of 3 distant suns. Inside, representatives from 17 galactic powers shifted uneasily in their designated chambers. The Hegemony Peace Summit had been called after 3 decades of escalating tensions between the Valkyrian Empire and the Targath Collective, powerhouses that controlled nearly 60% of known space between them. Lesser species huddled in diplomatic enclaves throughout the massive station, whispering anxiously. Everyone knew that when Titans went to war, it was the smaller worlds that became the battlefield. The Galactic Hegemony, little more than a symbolic council these days, had begged for moderation, for reason, for anything to prevent the coming bloodshed. Summit commencement in 15 standard units announced the station's AI in 17 different languages simultaneously. In the Eastern Wing, Supreme Overseer Draz Kull of the Valkyrie glowered at his assembled generals, 8 feet tall with glistening obsidian exoskeletons and eyes that gleamed like molten gold. The Valkyrie had conquered 12 systems in the last century alone. The Exargath sent 8 diplomats. He chittered to his war minister. 8. As if this were some minor trade dispute. An insult, Supreme One. The minister agreed. They do not take our demands seriously. Across the station in the Western Enclave, High Archangelic of the Targath Collective observed the final communications from her homeworld. The Exargath were luminescent beings, their translucent bodies housing swirling nebula of colors beneath their skin. While physically smaller than many species, their mastery of quantum technologies made them feared throughout the galaxy. The Valkyrian delegation arrives with a battle cruiser in orbit, reported in aid. They display weapons openly. As expected, Velik's voice resonated like crystal bells. They know only force. Between these 2 chambers, dozens of lesser delegations prepared their own desperate pleas and bargains. The Trizillarans offered rare minerals, the Quetzal Confederacy promised exotic technologies, the Medusan Alliance suggested new trade routes, anything to divert the coming storm. Ambassador Kirina of the Andromeda Compact, one of the oldest diplomatic corps in the galaxy, addressed his fellow neutrals. This summit is merely ceremony. The war is inevitable. All we can do is choose sides carefully. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the gathering. One delegation has yet to arrive, noted a junior diplomat, checking the roster. The humans. Kirina scoffed, his iridescent scales shimmering with derision. Earth? They've barely broken their gravity well. What could they possibly contribute? The station's AI chimed again, announcing the arrival of the Earth delegation. View screens throughout the station flickered to life, showing the main docking bay. Delegates paused in their conversations, mildly curious about humanity's first appearance at a major summit. Most expected a nervous contingent of diplomats, overdressed and overwrought by their first interstellar conference. Instead, a single transport shuttle docked, sleek and unadorned. Its doors slid open, and a lone figure emerged. Commander Alexis Chen walked with unhurried confidence across the reception area. She wore a simple midnight blue uniform with minimal insignia, just a silver Earth emblem at her collar and commander's bars at her shoulders. No ceremonial weapons, no entourage, no display of force or wealth. Just one human carrying nothing but a small data tablet. That's it. Kirina's voice betrayed his surprise. One human. Throughout the station, similar reactions echoed. The Valkyrian observers chittered with amusement. The Exargath delegates conferred in their musical language. No one had expected this. When the summit formally convened an hour later, the Grand Chamber hummed with tension. The Valkyrian delegation dominated one side with their towering forms and ornate battle armor. The Exargath occupied the opposite position, their bodies glowing with barely contained energy. Between them sat the neutral factions, arranged according to their galactic influence and status. Commander Chen was shown to a small seat near the back, a position that clearly indicated Earth's minimal standing in galactic affairs. She didn't take it. Instead, she walked calmly to the central platform, a space reserved for the Hegemony Arbiter, who hadn't dared to show up, and stood there, quiet and composed. The room fell silent as she placed her tablet on the podium and looked up at the assembled delegates. "The Earth Confederation thanks you for the invitation," she said simply. Her voice wasn't amplified, yet somehow it carried throughout the chamber. "I am Commander Alexis Chen, and I am here to prevent unnecessary bloodshed." A Valkyrian general chittered loudly. "The hatchling species sends a single unarmed female to lecture us on war." The translator rendered his contempt perfectly. High Archonvelic's colors swirled patronizingly. "Perhaps Earth misunderstood the nature of this summit. We are here to negotiate terms, not entertain the observations of newcomers." Commander Chen didn't react to either comment. She simply activated her tablet, and the chamber's holographic display came to life. "Before we discuss terms," she said, "let's establish common ground. Specifically, the ground you're both secretly preparing to fight over." The display showed a star system neither the Valkyrian nor the XR Gath had officially claimed. Sector 37 Delta, a resource-rich region along their borders. "Impossible," growled Drazkal. "Those are encrypted military coordinates." Chen ignored him. "The Valkyrian have established 3 forward bases in the Koros asteroid belt," she continued, highlighting various points on the map. "That XR Gath have deployed quantum sensors throughout the system's outer planets." More highlights appeared. "Both sides have moved fleet assets into position under communications blackout." The chamber erupted. Delegates shouted for explanations, for verification. The Valkyrian and Targath leaders conferred urgently with their advisors. Security personnel moved closer to the central platform. Chen waited out the chaos with unnerving calm. When the noise began to subside, she spoke again. "Earth has no interest in taking sides in your conflict. We have no territorial claims, no desire for your resources. We're here solely to prevent a war that would destabilize half the galaxy." "With what authority?" demanded Velik, her luminescence pulsing with agitation. "Earth has no standing military presence beyond your solar system. You command no fleets. You hold no territories. By what right do you presume to mediate between powers that could obliterate your homeworld with a single command?" A small smile touched Chen's lips. "By right of information," she answered, "and preparation." With a simple gesture, she changed the display. Now it showed something that made even the Valkyrian generals recoil: the interior layout of the Valkyrian flagship currently orbiting the station, complete with crew rotations, weapons systems, and security protocols. Before anyone could react, the display shifted again, this time showing the quantum encryption keys used by the XR-Gath for their most secure communications. "Impossible," hissed Velik, her colors draining to a pale blue. "Those are generated by quantum entanglement. They cannot be intercepted." "They can be predicted," Chen replied, "with sufficient computational power and the right algorithms." The room had gone deathly quiet. Every diplomat, every general, every observer was suddenly reevaluating everything they thought they knew about humanity. "This could be fabricated," Drazkal growled, but there was doubt in his voice. "Clever misinformation." Chen nodded. "A reasonable assumption." She touched her tablet again. "Which is why I've prepared a demonstration." The display changed to a live feed from inside the Valkyrian battlecruiser. The bridge crew was visible, going about their duties, unaware they were being watched. With another touch, Chen split the screen to show the command center of the Xargath diplomatic vessel. "We're not in your systems," Chen explained calmly. "We never were. These feeds come from passive observation technologies. We've been watching, quietly, respectfully, because that's what newcomers do. We listen. We learn." She deactivated the feeds and looked up at the stunned faces around her. "Earth may be young to interstellar travel, but humanity is not young to conflict. We've nearly destroyed ourselves dozens of times. We've faced extinction from war, from disease, from our own technology. Each time, we've survived by adaptation, by innovation, and by learning from our mistakes." She fixed her gaze on Drazkal. The Valkyrian Empire has conquered through overwhelming force for 3 centuries. Then she turned to Velik. That Exargath collective has survived through technological superiority for just as long. Chen's voice remained calm, but her words cut like precision weapons. But neither approach is sustainable when faced with an enemy who can neutralize your advantages. You're both so concerned with crushing each other that you've failed to consider that there might be a third path. Ambassador Kirina found his voice first. What is Earth proposing? A true peace, Chen answered. Not a temporary ceasefire, not a redrawing of borders, a collaborative framework built on transparency and mutual benefit. She gestured to her tablet. The full proposal is there, but first, we need to acknowledge reality. She looked once more at the Valkyrian and Exargath leaders. You've both hidden fleet movements. You've both developed weapons of mass destruction. You've both prepared for a war you claim to be trying to avoid. The accusation hung in the air like a physical thing. No one spoke. Earth has no fleets to threaten you with, Chen continued, her voice softer now. No colonies to use as bargaining chips, but we do have one thing neither of you anticipated. She touched her tablet one final time, and the holographic display showed a vast network of satellites, thousands of them, in stealth orbits around key worlds in both the Valkyrian Empire and the Exargath collective. Observer platforms, she explained, launched decades ago, before we officially achieved faster-than-light travel. While you watched our public space program, you missed our shadow initiatives. These platforms don't carry weapons. They carry information and truth. Draz Cole rose to his full height, his exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber lights. This is an act of war, he snarled. No, Chen replied evenly. This is an act of prevention. These platforms broadcast on all frequencies, to your governments, to your military, to your civilian populations. If either side initiates hostilities, your people will know the truth about who started the war and why. No propaganda. No controlled narratives. Just facts. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of every major delegate. Humanity learned long ago that wars are often built on lies told to those who will die fighting them. We're simply removing that tool from your arsenal. The silence that followed was absolute. No one moved. No one spoke. The implications were staggering. Finally, High Archon Velik broke the silence. You've invaded our sovereignty without firing a shot. We've preserved it, Chen corrected. Your sovereignty, your people, your future, all of which would be jeopardized by the war you're planning. She stepped away from the podium, leaving her tablet behind. The peace proposal is there. Earth will remain neutral, but we will not remain silent. You have 6 hours to begin genuine negotiations before we open all communication channels. As she walked toward the exit, Ambassador Kirina called after her. Commander Chen, is this how humans always negotiate? Chen paused at the threshold and turned. For the first time, she smiled, a small, knowing expression that somehow made her seem both older and more dangerous. This isn't negotiation, Ambassador. This is humanity introducing itself to the galaxy. Her eyes swept the room one last time. We prefer peace, but make no mistake, we've mastered war. The doors closed behind her, leaving the most powerful beings in the galaxy staring at each other in stunned silence. The Peace Summit had just become something else entirely, a first contact with a species no one had truly understood until now. And in the quiet that followed, the balance of power in the galaxy shifted. The art of human warfare. The 6 hours that followed Commander Chen's departure were the most frantic the Grand Conclave had ever witnessed. Throughout the massive station, communication channels overloaded with encrypted messages. Emergency meetings convened in every available chamber. Intelligence officers frantically verified what could not possibly be true, yet undeniably was. In a secure room deep within the Valkyrian Quarter, Supreme Overseer Draz Kull raged at his intelligence chief. How? He demanded, smashing a holographic display with his armored fist. How did primitives who have barely touched the stars infiltrate our most secure networks? The intelligence chief's exoskeleton had dulled with stress. The humans never attacked our systems directly. Supreme One. They watched, they collected, they analyzed patterns we didn't know existed. Impossible. With respect, the evidence suggests otherwise. The chief hesitated. There's more. We've confirmed the presence of observer platforms around all 7 of our core worlds. They're dormant now, but they have enough power reserves to broadcast for decades. Drazkul's golden eyes narrowed. Can we destroy them? We've simulated multiple scenarios. The problem is their numbers and distribution. Even if we neutralized 90%, the remainder would be enough. And any attempt would trigger immediate activation. Meanwhile, in the Targeth enclave, High Archon Velik's luminescence had dimmed to troubled indigo spirals. Her chief scientist projected complex quantum equations. The human was correct, he reported grimly. Our encryption isn't broken. It's predicted. Their mathematical models analyze quantum fluctuations we believe to be truly random. That's theoretically impossible, Velik objected. Even our best quantum computers. Their approach is different. The scientist interrupted. Not brute computation, but pattern recognition on a scale we hadn't considered. It's not just technology. It's a fundamentally different way of thinking. Throughout the station, neutral delegations scrambled to reassess everything they knew about humanity. Intelligence officers pulled archive footage of Earth broadcasts, analyzed human history, desperately sought any insight into this species that had just revealed itself to be something entirely unexpected. In her private quarters aboard the Earth shuttle, Commander Chen sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed in meditation. She'd learned the technique during her years with the Special Diplomatic Corps, a branch of Earth government whose existence wasn't included in any public record. The quiet helped her prepare for what would come next. Her communication console chimed softly. "Commander," came a voice from Earth Command. "Status update. Phase 1 complete," she reported. "Observation networks revealed. Information leverage established. Reactions. As predicted. The Valkyrie are angry. The Exargath disturbed. The neutrals are recalculating. And the peace proposal." Chen opened her eyes. "They're reading it now. They'll have questions. You know what to tell them." The connection ended. Chen rose slowly, checked her uniform, and prepared to return to the summit. The real work was just beginning. When Chen re-entered the Grand Chamber exactly 6 hours later, the atmosphere had transformed. Gone was the arrogant posturing, the casual dismissal of the human presence. Now all eyes tracked her movement as she walked once again to the central platform. The tablet remained exactly where she had left it. "Has everyone reviewed the proposal?" she asked simply. Drazkul rose from his seat, his massive form towering over the assembly. "Your proposal demands that both the Empire and the Collective establish a demilitarized zone spanning 20 light-years across our borders. It requires sharing of resource extraction rights and technology. It calls for joint oversight of disputed territories." His voice dripped with restrained fury. "These terms are unprecedented. They are balanced," Chen replied. "And they are not negotiable." High Archon Velik's colors flashed with indignation. "You claim to come in peace, yet you threaten us with information warfare if we don't accept your terms. This is coercion, not diplomacy." Chen nodded. "Yes, it is." The blunt admission stunned the chamber. No one had expected her to acknowledge it so plainly. "Earth has studied your conflict extensively," Chen continued. "We've analyzed every peace attempt over the last century. Each failed because neither side feared the consequences of failure more than they desired victory. We've simply changed that equation." She gestured to the assembled delegates. "Earth doesn't want your territories. We don't want your resources. We want stability, because the alternative threatens everyone, including us." Ambassador Kirina leaned forward. "Commander, while your methods are unprecedented, many neutral worlds find aspects of your proposal intriguing. But we must understand, what role does Earth intend to play in this new arrangement? Observer. Chen answered without hesitation. Nothing more. Drazkul chittered skeptically. You demonstrate power, then claim you don't wish to use it. We are using it, Chen corrected. Right now. To prevent a war that would cost billions of lives. She looked directly at the Valkyrian leader. Your strategists have calculated that even in total victory, the Empire would lose 30% of its military strength and face rebellion in at least 4 systems. The economic impact would set you back decades. She turned to Velik. And the collective's simulations show that while your quantum weapons could devastate the Valkyrian fleets, the biological countermeasures they've developed would render a third of your worlds uninhabitable for generations. Both leaders stared at her in stunned silence. These were their most closely guarded strategic assessments. We didn't hack your systems to learn this, Chen explained. We observed your preparations, analyzed resource allocations, studied troop movements. The conclusions are inescapable to anyone looking at the complete picture. She paused. A picture that your own leaders have carefully prevented you from seeing. The implications rippled through the chamber. Chen wasn't just addressing the leaders. She was speaking to their entire delegations, many of whom were hearing these projections for the first time. A junior Valkyrian diplomat whispered urgently to his superior. The Exargath scientist's colors paled dramatically. Seeds of doubt were being planted. You still haven't explained why Earth cares, Velik pressed. Your world is far from our conflict zones. Distance is an illusion in a connected galaxy, Chen replied. Earth has learned through bitter experience that isolation doesn't guarantee safety. Either we help build a stable galactic community now, or we face the consequences of its collapse later. She touched the tablet, and the holographic display showed a new image. Detailed models of galactic trade routes, resource dependencies, and refugee projections in the event of war. This conflict wouldn't stay contained, she explained. It would disrupt supply chains across 47 systems. It would create refugee crises affecting dozens more. The economic ripples would be felt everywhere, including Earth. We're acting out of enlightened self-interest. Drazkul's posture had changed subtly. His initial rage had given way to something else, calculation. Let us assume, he said carefully, that we consider these terms. What guarantees would Earth provide regarding these observer platforms? Full transparency, Chen answered promptly. Both the Empire and the Collective would receive complete technical specifications. You would know exactly what they can and cannot do. You would have verification rights. She paused. What you wouldn't have is control over them. She looked around the chamber. The platforms represent the most basic principle of human diplomacy. Trust, but verify. Velik's colors swirled thoughtfully. And if we were to agree to these terms, would Earth consider technology exchange? Your observation capabilities clearly exceed our own in certain areas. It was the first acknowledgement of humanity's technological advantage, a significant concession from the technologically proud Sargath. Limited exchanges could be arranged, Chen confirmed, within parameters that don't upset the balance of power. For the next 4 hours, the discussion continued. What had begun as a dictation of terms evolved into something resembling actual negotiation, albeit with clear boundaries that Chen refused to cross. Throughout, her demeanor remained calm, her responses measured. She never raised her voice, never made overt threats, yet everyone in the chamber understood exactly how much power she wielded. As the marathon session approached conclusion, Drazkul addressed Chen directly. Your species remains an enigma, Commander. You come unarmed to face empires. You deploy no fleets yet project power across the galaxy. You threaten with information rather than weapons. His golden eyes studied her intently. What are humans, really? Chen considered the question carefully. We're survivors, she said finally. Earth has no natural defenses, no exoskeletons, no venom, no significant strength. We evolved on a world full of deadlier creatures. We survived through cooperation and through intelligence. She looked up at the towering Valkyrian. When we encountered stronger enemies, we didn't evolve thicker armor. We invented spears. When we faced faster predators, we didn't evolve to run faster. We set traps. When we competed with each other, we developed social structures, rules, civilization. Her gaze swept the chamber. Every species here evolved dominant on their worlds. You grew stronger, faster, deadlier than your competition. Humanity never had that luxury. We became what we needed to be, adaptable. And that's far more dangerous than being strong. The room was silent as her words sank in. It wasn't a boast. It was a simple statement of evolutionary fact, and somehow that made it more unsettling. The peace proposal requires a formal response, Chen said, breaking the silence. Earth respectfully requests your decisions within 12 hours. As delegates began filing out, Ambassador Karina approached Chen. The Andromeda Compact has observed diplomacy for millennia, he said quietly. We've never seen anything like what you've accomplished today. Earth hopes it isn't necessary again, Chen replied. Sometimes the first impression must be memorable. Oh, it has been. Kirina's scales shimmered with something between fear and respect. The galaxy will not forget humanity's debut. 3 days later, Commander Chen stood in Earth Command's secure briefing room. The holographic display showed the signed peace accord, the first truly balanced agreement between the Valkyrian Empire and the Exargath Collective in 2 centuries. Remarkable achievement, Commander, said Director Hayes, a silver-haired woman with eyes that had seen more conflicts than most history books recorded. The Strategic Council sends its congratulations. Thank you, Director, Chen replied. But this was only the first step. Hayes nodded. Indeed, our analysis suggests the peace will hold for at least a decade, enough time to establish the new framework. She studied Chen carefully. The galactic community's perception of humanity has been fundamentally altered. Some might consider that a vulnerability, or a shield. Chen countered. They'll be wary of direct confrontation now. Yes. Hayes smiled slightly. But they'll look for other ways to test us. The Valkyrian are already expanding intelligence operations. The Exargath have accelerated their quantum research. As expected, Hayes gestured to the accord. This wasn't just about preventing a war, was it? It was about establishing humanity's position. Chen didn't answer immediately. She looked at the display where small indicators showed news spreading across the galaxy. Billions of beings were learning about the peace accord, and about the small, supposedly insignificant species that had brokered it. Humanity needed to define itself before others defined us, she said finally. In galactic politics, first impressions matter. We could enter as supplicants, as curiosities, as resources to be exploited. She met Hayes' gaze. Or we could enter as equals. More than equals, according to some reports, Hayes observed. The diplomatic channels are buzzing with speculation about our true capabilities. Good, Chen replied simply. Let them wonder. Hayes laughed softly. The old approach, speak softly and carry a big stick. Updated for interstellar diplomacy, Chen agreed. Speak clearly and maintain strategic ambiguity. Outside the briefing room window, Earth turned serenely against the backdrop of stars. To most of its inhabitants, it was just another day. Few would ever know how close the galaxy had come to war, or the role their planet had played in preventing it. The diplomatic court has new assignments coming in, Hayes noted, bringing up another display. 17 requests for human mediators in the last 24 hours. It seems we've created a new diplomatic paradigm. Chen smiled for the first time since returning home. No, Director. We've simply reminded the galaxy of something it had forgotten. And what's that, Commander? True power isn't in the weapons you display, Chen said quietly. It's in the actions you can take without them. As the Earth continued its eternal rotation, dozens of new diplomatic vessels prepared for departure. Each carried a single human envoy, unarmed, unassuming, yet now recognized across the stars as representatives of a power that had redefined the rules of galactic engagement. not through conquest, not through intimidation, but through the uniquely human combination of observation, intelligence, and the quiet confidence of a species that had survived its own worst impulses and emerged stronger for it. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.